If you're hearing the sound of my voice, then your lobes are functioning properly. And if your lobes are functioning properly, then they should be all a tingle, because you are listening to Audio Hoo-Mons, the preeminent Deep Space Nine podcast with your host,
Brian and
Alex.
All right. And I am a lover of Trek, but because of some international deployments, did not get to catch all of the episodes, but I am getting now to catch up with you. And you were a lover, longtime watcher over and over againer, and a veritable font of knowledge of not only Trek, but of many things related to secondary actors, lots of genre and side genre movies that Trek is drawn from.
Well, thank you. I like to say that I have a liberal arts degree, which means I know a little bit about a lot of things, and none of it is particularly useful unless you have a podcast about Star Trek. And I'll just say that, hey, thanks everybody who listened in last week. I hope you enjoyed the early drop of the episode of Paradise, where we talked about boxing Ben Sisko, and
That's right.
I hope you enjoyed the extra day. I just felt like I was cutting it, and I thought, we're getting ready. I just cut the show. I was cutting it close on cutting, by the way, cutting being editing. I just getting ready to upload it, and I thought, well, what the heck, I'm going to be recording with Brian in like 3 hours. I might as well just pop this one up there and go. And so it's kind of good because I'm fresh, and I was remembering that there were 3 things about this episode that I was particularly excited about, and one of them was Kenneth Tobey, who is an actor on this, who goes way back. The other was Robert Hewitt Wolfe, who was the story editor for the series, but also was a writer for the series for about 5 years. And, of course, the third part was you, my friend, hanging out with you, Brian, so I'm excited.
Oh, always great. And so we are a week ahead on the airing between when we record and when it airs. So for those of you who follow the national days and holidays, today, in addition to being podcast recording day,
right,
is
National Martini Day, which anybody, if you're a longtime listener to the show, you know that in particular that is my drink of choice, and it's one of Brian's top 3. So
absolutely,
here we
are,
and I've had a couple.
Yeah, so my Tranya, I actually there was something that you had forwarded around Father's Day, which was some recommended specialty drinks, or something a little that takes something that many dads use and spices it up a little bit. 8 top drinks, and so I actually chose a recipe from there, which was a black pepper or cracked pepper Gibson. So it's a martini, vodka, martini, cocktail onions, cracked pepper, lots of ice, and shaken well.
And a Gibson is gin, by the way. If you're scoring this at home, a Gibson is gin. It's not vodka, right?
I thought a Gibson was vodka, and a martini is gin.
No, a Gibson is also gin. The difference between a Gibson, and it's okay, you can do your own variation, but the difference between a Gibson,
as long as there's no chocolate. You put chocolate in a drink, it's not a martini.
It's candy.
It's dessert.
A Gibson, the difference actually is you're typically using dry vermouth, and cocktail onions is a good Gibson.
Got it. Okay, so and that's the piece that I missed, which is I rinsed the glass with vermouth before starting. So.
Yeah, you did, and we got to get you an atomizer. Because you don't like a lot of vermouth anyway, so
I don't,
and you'll save a lot of money. You could, a bottle of vermouth will last you a year if you use an atomizer. Just go, and then you're done. But no, that looked great, and you sent me a picture, and it looked just wonderful. So, and I'm drinking my Tranya this evening. Is just your typical. It's not a full Vesper actually. It's a vodka martini, but instead of vermouth, I'm using Lillet Blanc. So, and I actually did not have a lemon. I'm so mad at myself. So there's no garnish. I know. So I cheated a little bit, and I add a few drops of lemon juice. I have a big, vat of lemon juice. Any port in the storm, right?
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. So this is an interesting episode. Are there any other housekeeping notes that you wanted
just
to?
that, even though we're recording a week or two in advance, actually, we'll be putting a few more episodes in the can. I'm going to see you. This is Wednesday. I'm going to see you in like 2 more days.
I am so excited.
I'm flying up to Chicago to hang with the dude here, and we're going to actually spend a good part of Saturday morning recording a couple of episodes. So we probably won't let on when we record them that we're doing this, but just by the way,
but you'll know, kind of look behind the curtain.
Yeah. And don't forget the look behind the curtain thing, which we'll talk about more soon. But basically, don't forget what we said in the last couple episodes. We do want to do a live YouTube recording of us recording an episode and have you join in. So more on that as we go. Again, that's going to be late in the summer, maybe into early fall, when things start to calm down in our lives a little bit. But that's coming our way. So that's where we are. And I can't wait to see.
So let's talk about shadow play. What I wanted to do, Alex, is one of the not shadow puppets. Shadow you don't have the benefit of seeing him making little shadow puppets on the wall behind himself. Okay, so what I wanted to do, if you will indulge me, we typically will try to follow the chronology of the airing. This, because it has really 3, almost 4 storylines that you're trying to track, and it bounces back and forth so much. I would like to cover each storyline separately. That way we can maybe get a little more depth. And if we like this, and listeners, if you like this format, let us know, because we may choose to do this at other points in the future with other episodes, or make this kind of our regular, the regular way that we track. Are you comfortable with that, Alex?
I am.
Okay. So we have 3 primary storylines. I'll cover the shortest one first, which is Jake and Ben Sisko. So Jake has to get a job. So it's that this storyline starts with really Ben talking to his son, saying, "Hey kid, when I was your age, I had a job. It's time for you to get a job. You learn responsibility, all those things. And by the way, it'll look great on your application to Starfleet, because I'm not going to let you work at Quark's at the Dabo table, running drinks to the Dabo table with Nog. You're gonna apprentice with Miles O'Brien, the Miles O'Brien, and learn about operations, which is going to help you get in to Starfleet." The groan of disgust, it was just
palpable,
as this fun kind of summer job. He goes from the lifeguard job to scooping shit at the zoo or something. He's not happy about it.
Right.
And that's pretty obvious. And then as we move forward to the next scene, it's he's interacting with Miles, and you can't catch it. You can zip by it easily, but there's a great leadership principle here that Miles exhibits.
Right.
It's so easy for people as leaders to assume that the people that work for you want to follow your same career path, want to do what they're doing, and that it's not just a space filler, because you want that reinforcement that you made a good decision by having someone younger think that that's a good decision as well.
Right.
But in reality, there are many people that are going to pass through you as a leader, that you're going to have to mentor, knowing that this is not their long-term career. And that's not a hit on them. There's nothing wrong with them. They have to find their own path.
Or with you. I've had plenty of interns come through me that ended up not doing what I do.
Exactly. And so as a good leader, I think instead of being offended or try to persuade them to follow your career path. He went the other route as a good mentor and said, yeah, I went through the same thing. Dad wanted me to be a cellist. I changed. I didn't want to. I ended up running and enlisting in Starfleet at the last minute, so I wouldn't have to go to whatever their version of Juilliard was. I can't remember.
I just call it cello school.
There you go. Yes. And so anyway, that was a great teachable moment, I thought, as from a leadership perspective, that Miles was a good functioned as a good leader and a good mentor for Jake.
Well, his anecdote about his father and all that, yeah, as you just iterated. I mean, it was, and it seemed very real to me.
Exactly. Yep.
It didn't seem put on like, oh, my boss expects me to like blah blah. He was being a friend to Jake first, instead of I'm going to suck up to the boss first, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And then the final scene then of this mini story is that Jake finally has to confront his dad and tell him he doesn't want to follow in his dad's footsteps.
Yeah, that scene, man. Did you the seconds when his voice broke a little bit when he told him, I don't want to be in Starfleet, and then when and I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump you on this, but
no, please.
But when Ben stands up to full attention, his full height, and looks at him, and he gives him this look, and it's like at first I don't remember what he says, like what, basically, but the thing about it is like I expected him, having not seen this one in about 15, 20 years, when he was just like, what? And I thought, oh, God, he's really going to lower the boom on him. And as soon as...
because, I mean, ultimately, he could have said, you're 15 years old. You don't know what you want. So you're going to follow this.
But here's the thing. As soon as Jake articulated, not forcefully necessarily, well, forcefully, what he did not want.
With conviction.
Thank you. Perfect word. With conviction, what he did not want. Did you? You saw Ben's face soften.
Yeah.
And he sat down, and he was his dad again, and he's just like, Jake, it's your life. Yeah. And I think he meant that. That's one thing I got to say, and I think that any parent worth a crap has to feel that way about their parents, about their children. If you love your children, your main concern is what? I want them to be happy. Now, Brian, you've got a couple of kids.
Yeah.
More than a couple.
I do.
Not going to out you or dox you and talk about that. It's your business. But, you were a parent way before I even thought about it. I never thought I'd be a parent. I don't mean to take a detour here, but let me ask you something. Because you were a parent relatively young. Mm-hmm. Did you have this feeling? How did you feel when you at that age? If your kid, so Jake's at Jake's age, what is he, about 14, 15 here?
I think 15.
Yeah. So when your kids had come to you, if they'd come to you at that age, and at the age you were when they were that age, I'm asking you to keep it real here, man. Do you think you would have given the same answer?
I think so. I really related to what Ben said, which was find something you love and do it the best you can. That's I think that should be the definition of success, not any financial thing, but find what you love, do it to your best ability, the best of your ability, and that's success. And I think I would, I think my folks were always had that level of encouragement. You can do whatever you want. Set your mind to it and do it. So, yeah, I hope I would. If they asked my opinion, I would always try to, and to this day I do it, I try to analyze what their skill set is and give them encouragement based on what I know they do well. That's just part of the equation. Right. You can do something well and hate it. So
well, and knowing your older children, and I see how they do. In particular, one of them does what he loves. I mean, and they both are very happy, great, wonderful, and they're both just super people. But it's interesting to see that. But Ben, with Jake, Ben is mother and father to Jake.
Right.
So
Yes.
what I love about this is that Ben seems to have, whether intuitively or consciously or subconsciously, Ben has to be male and female, mother and father. And what's interesting is that a lot of single parents, and I'm not criticizing, but I'm sure have a hard time being both. And for
absolutely, especially the nurturing part. If you're doing both,
it's about survival.
Functioning in both roles, exactly. You're trying to drive and survive and motivate in order to get somewhere. So I would hypothesize that the nurturing part is more likely the one that gets dropped.
I think you're right. Okay, well, anyway, so Jake is announced basically. And I love this. I love this because, my God, there are some tropes about Trek that I really hate, which is that everybody has to be in Starfleet. Well, if everybody's in Starfleet, who's everybody? You know what I mean? Who are they protecting?
That's stupid. It doesn't work.
You were in the military. It's like, if everybody's in the military, then who are we protecting? And all,
right.
It's just so and I firmly believe that people in Starfleet need to be the best of the best.
Sure.
And by the way, not everybody's the best of the best. And they can't all be in Starfleet. And I don't mean Jake's not best. Jake actually probably would have had a good career. I can't see Jake, frankly, being a captain. I could see Jake being maybe like me, like a public information officer, or running the Starfleet version of Stars and Stripes or something. But there's nothing wrong with that. We each
we need those things.
Each to his own gifts,
he's not. He would not be ideally suited for a command path.
Yeah. You were combat trained, but you're the first to tell me you weren't in a combat. Well, you technically were.
I call myself a chairborne ranger. So I was in the 18th Corps. I was in the 82nd Airborne Division. I was on general staff, and I was in the Adjutant General Corps. So I handled personnel, postal, morale, welfare, and recreation. Those were the types of
incredibly important things.
They are very important. They were, some of the most highly focused on things during one of my deployments, because it's so important that the soldiers, get messages, and get their letters, and that kind of stuff.
Well, and that explains your Army nickname of Killer. No, but I make fun, but listen, folks, this guy jumped out of airplanes with a gun. So I'm not going to make fun of him and say, in the rear with the gear, or any of that crap. The point is that everybody has a mission and a role within an organization, whether it's the United States military or Starfleet or the Peace Corps, or if you're a teacher, you may be a great history teacher, but you're not really somebody who should be an assistant principal. Each to his own gifts or her own gifts and all that. So I like that Trek took this path, and I'm wondering if I could ever interview Robert Hewitt Wolfe, who wrote this one. I asked him, I said, was this your idea that Jake took the divergent path? Or was it more like a writer's meeting kind of thing like we saw in the documentary, and they're like, well, Jake's going to not do the usual thing, and then somebody came up with it? Or was it like, he's like, I had an idea, let's make Jake like a writer, like me, which could very well be what happened. So I like that, because the other trope I don't like, and I can't stand, and you see it in all of the Trek fan fiction, which sadly, stupid CBS has outlawed basically all of it. And Brian, I know you're not into any of this, but there's been some very high quality fan films, and and when I come and see you, I'm going to whip out the YouTube and show you little clips of some of them so you can see what I'm talking about. But there's been some stuff. There's a set in Ticonderoga, New York, that's every bit better than the original series set. I mean, wow. Shatner goes there and tours it and sits in the captain's chairs, and he's like, oh my God, this is better than the set we had on TV. But CBS has wiped out the fan films. But one of the tropes I can't stand with the fan films, though, is like they've gotten people like Walter Koenig, who played Chekov, and they've gotten Uhura, and they've gotten Sulu, and they've gotten lots of guest stars. But it's like everybody who was like anybody in the show, when they bring them back for the series, because they're older actors now, they make them admirals.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Oh, that's so dumb. I mean, you were in the military. Does everybody make general? Does everybody make general?
No.
How many people?
Not even close.
How many people What percentage of lifers in the military make general?
I mean, it's got to be less than 1% of the total military. It's a really low number.
So what are the chances that Chekov, would end up being an admiral or Sulu?
Here's the neither thing. One probably, unless there was. Okay, so here's the possible path, which is there may be an honorary admiralty for
like
instructors at the academy. They may get a single star, but most would not get to that.
I'm talking about the generals or the admirals that had because in the United States military, a flag officer, a general or an admiral has to be approved by Congress. After you get past colonel or captain in the Navy, you have to be approved by Congress to be a flag rank. They're not sitting there every day at Congress minting out 500 admirals, and so it's just like when I see that. So Chekov, just look. Okay, I know you're like shut up, but I'm going to go ahead. So you're looking at Chekov. So Chekov was an ensign in the original series. And then when the motion picture, he's a lieutenant. That's fine. He's on the path. That's great because that was like 4 or 5 years after the beginning when he was on. So then in Wrath of Khan, he's transferred off the Enterprise like he should have, and he's a full commander, and he's the first officer of the Reliant, a different ship. I'm like, looking at this, and I'm thinking, that's how it works. And by the way, you do not stay with the same captain on the same ship your entire career. That would mean that there's something wrong with you.
Right. Unless something changes at some point in the future because of the length of the missions.
Sure. Okay.
Maybe they stay together.
You're extrapolating a little bit just to support the framework, and I appreciate that. But I'm going to just go from what I think. Okay, so then Star Trek 3 happens. Okay, they're going to go get Spock back, and so Chekov participates in the theft of the Enterprise to get Spock back. So okay, that could have stalled his career. Fair enough. Yet. So Star Trek 4 happens. They're all back together, and you're thinking, okay, I get that. They're all stuck on the same ship together because what they did in 3 to steal the Enterprise. But then things start to go at Star Trek 5. Well, less said about that, the better. By Star Trek 6, though, Sulu is a captain of the Excelsior. He's finally gotten his own command. But everybody else is stuck on Jim Kirk's retirement home, a.k.a. the Enterprise A. And it's like Chekov's career completely stalled at commander. And then you see these fan films, and they're good, and he's a full, 4-star admiral. And I'm like, that's not how it works.
Right.
Okay, it's a small, petty thing that I'm wasting time on here. But I just... well, look, if you cannot have your own Star Trek podcast and bitch about the things you find reprehensible, then what's the point?
Right.
Okay, sorry. You're like, I don't care. I moved on 5 minutes ago. Okay. Go ahead.
So just to wrap up the Jake and Ben thing.
Jake is not an admiral. I'm sorry. I'll shut up. I'm sorry.
So Admiral Jake. He's no.
That's like that would be like Rom ending up as Nagus.
Yeah. Okay. So just to wrap. We've got 2 more of these. This is just the first one. This is a short one, by the way. So this may end up being a 2-parter.
Oh my God, we're going on really
arguably
long.
As a 3-bar of Latinum episode.
Yeah, and I'm running out of bars on my phone here. We better go.
Okay, so the last thing was, even though Ben was fine with Jake taking his own path, what was not said but was assumed was that he would continue his work for Miles because he had made a prior commitment to work with Miles. So he's got to learn about the isolinear chips, and he's got to do his job, and he's got to, even though this is not going to be his career, he's got to figure the shiz out.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an important, yet again, a teachable moment from a leadership perspective and from a parenting perspective is you make commitments. Okay, I get that you don't want to do this for life, but you've made a commitment to intern with Miles, and you're going to do it.
Well, it's back to
6 months or a year.
It's back to Klingon opera.
Yep, exactly. I did it. You do it. All right. So that's number 1. Number 2 is Quark and Kira and Vedic puerile,
Right.
which for me, I really enjoyed. I don't know if enjoyed's the right word. I learned a lot. It was revealed a lot about Kira's real feelings for both Quark and for Vedic. Is it Barile? Yeah, Barile.
Yeah, it's Barile. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Just
keep
think
saying
of Burl
Puerile.
Ives. Just think of Burl Ives.
So that, I mean, this one starts with Quark's got a brother, cousin,
Kono.
tries to sneak some stuff onto Deep Space Nine. There was supposed to be a sneak on. There was supposed to be a meeting, and it gets interrupted. So the guy has to take off, and Kira uses this as an opportunity to really, because they had been amiable previously, not friends certainly, but they had been cordial in most of their encounters previously. At least, some joking around, so that kind of stuff. But she just let it all out at this time. She doesn't trust him. She thinks he's a traitor. He's sold himself to the Cardassians. He traded with them. He did stuff with them. And so basically she said smilingly, "I hate your guts. I hate your effing guts," I think is kind of what she said.
Pretty much
90s DS9 terminology. And so that was interesting. And then next thing you know, Vedic Barile has been invited to give a lecture on the station, and we cut away from the Quark and Kira because she wants to spend some time with Vedic Barile. But what she does do is she kind of calls Julian in for his one, mandatory scene of the episode, and says, "Hey, keep an eye on Quark for me. Use some of your skills that Garrick's been teaching you." And so he obliges. He looks at it as a kind of fun way to do some undercover work. And then Kira sees Vedic Barile, and this is the first time we've seen the two of them together since the Naked Orb meeting, right?
Oh wow, that's right. And I love the Naked Orb 2. Wasn't that the sequel to
something like
to
that?
the Naked Gun?
Yeah. So there again, you can tell there's a real attraction there, but you're not sure what's going to happen. He's a religious leader, and she was in the resistance. So they're kind of oil and water from a history standpoint, but they find some common ground. They decide they're going to go play Pooh Sticks, or what game was it? Some kind of
Pooh Stick. What the heck?
that's a Winnie the Pooh game.
You should hope.
It's some kind of a stickball, handball,
spring ball.
Spring ball. There
Pooh
it is.
Sticks.
Yeah. So they decide. They both agree that they like this game. They have discussions about it, and they decide they're going to go play. And so Kira goes and gets her 80s aerobic outfit on, and they go.
And she looks damn good with the sweatband on her head too.
Yeah. She honestly does, but it definitely dates the episode.
Well, she didn't have leg warmers.
It may as well have. But anyway, they play their game. They sit together, and then the makeout session starts, which they really smoothly transitioned right into kissing pretty passionately, and having further discussions when she discovers, just in their casual flirty conversation in between kisses, that another religious leader at Deep Space Nine loved Dabo and was in for a bunch of money and owed Quark money, and he's the one that invited Vedic Bareil onto the station. And so she makes this connection, and next thing you know, there we go. We're having to. She breaks away because she knows that Quark's up to something. She knows what it is, and so she rushes back to find Quark just in time, and they arrest Quark's cousin for having some, stolen museum artifacts. Poor Quark is left out, left in the lurch, but it has not been arrested because, he was caught before they interacted together. And then after that interaction, again, the Kira really loathes Quark. She says goodbye and spends a little more time with Vedic Bareil, and they're on about their business. So for me, that line, I think it was just some interesting, tying up some loose ends and bringing some relationship issues back to the forefront that I hadn't seen previously. Kira and Quark, I thought were okay together, but now I think that revealed some more depth of dislike, and then of course the romance between Kira and Vedic Bareil was rekindled, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. Do you think they look right together?
I don't know. I think they kind of look like siblings. He seems he always seems tentative in most of his conversations, and I don't know if that is how he's playing the role, or if he's out of breath, or if there just seems to be there's so many kind of pauses and such a softness there, which I certainly understand as a man of faith or a religious leader you have to have, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think being simplistic, you could look at Kira and go, yeah, he's softer than her. She's hard edge, maybe, yin and yang and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Because I believe it or not, don't laugh, but I've been kind of a Bareil in certain relationships where I've been kind of laid back and soft, and it works with especially a particularly assertive partner, and I've had a few.
Sure.
But mostly I'm not. I'm mostly usually the more blah, so I can see it working both ways. I just, and see, I'm trying hard not to sit here and judge this based on what I know of how the series goes, but
right.
I just never ever felt, that's why I used to call him Vedic Puerile. I'd be like, come on, this guy, really? Okay, sorry. Spoiler alert. I hate saying that, stupid. Because listen, if you haven't, as we always say, if you haven't seen this show 25 years later, it's not our fault. Like when First Minister Shakar shows up, I'm like, okay, that guy's the shiz. He's like real good looking, very masculine, and very much like every bit Kira's equal. Those two, it's not oil and water, it's oil and oil, Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Bareil, I never felt real good about it. And I think that's borne out by how things end up. So I should shut up there.
Right. So there we go. So that's line 2. Line 3 is the main line.
Are we mainlining something? I didn't get my supply.
This is the main storyline. Is Dax and Odo are trucking along through space, and they see some weird Omicron particles